Yeah, back on the SportsMax zone, and cricket is where we begin. West Indies women convincingly defeated their Bangladesh counterparts by 8 wickets in the first of 3 T20 internationals played at Warner Park in St Kitts and Nevis on Monday night. Now, electing to bat, the visitors posted a respectable 144 for 3 of their 20 overs. Nigar Jati top scored with an unbeaten 53, supported by Charmin Akhtar's 37. There was a wicket each for Captain Hayley Matthews, Afi Fletcher and Cherian Fraser. In reply, Captain Hayley Matthews featured in 2 half-century partnerships on her way to a 16th T20 international half-century of 60 not out, as the Windies women eased to the target of 145 in 16.5 overs. Matthews first shared 63 for the first wicket with Kiana Joseph, who made 29, and then an unbroken 62 with Deandra Dottin for the third wicket. Dottin was named player of the match as her powerful hitting was on full display. She smashed 7 sixes on her way to a 21-ball unbeaten 51 as she broke 22-ball unbeaten 51 as she broke her own record for the fastest 50 by a West Indian woman, which came up in 21 deliveries. She held the previous milestone of 22 deliveries. All right, let's get her post-match thoughts.
I think this is my favorite venue in the Caribbean after 2010 World Cup, scoring the fastest 100. But I basically come up with a little vengeance after getting out early in one of the ODIs. So I just say that I just come out to beat ball. Sometimes I do get off the fast start, sometimes I don't. It's just a matter of like assessing the pitch and just feeling out the bowlers, kind of getting them comfortable. You know, and making them feel like, yeah.
A false sense of security.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, just how I start tonight, it's just a matter of getting it comfortable, like I said, and then after that, just, you know, picking my areas to hit the ball.
Yeah, beat ball, she said. Now, following that blistering knock from Dottin, she now has a record 124 sixes in women's T20 internationals, 10 ahead of New Zealand's Sophie Devine. Nikhil Uttamchandani joins us now to recap last night's encounter as the Windies women took a 1-0 lead in the 3-match series. Well, Nikhil, I promised Lance and Mariah and the entire viewership of the SportsMax zone that you would be able to tell us the exact distance of that 6 from Deandra Dottin that had us all in awe yesterday, and that you would also be able to tell us where it ranks in terms of distance in the biggest sixes hit at Warner Park in St Kitts and Nevis. So the stage is all yours, Mr. Uttamchandani.
Nikhil, please tell me that he told you this before and he didn't put you on the spot, because when he said that to the viewers, all I was thinking is I hope Nikhil is tuned in and I hope he's checking right now.
Mariah, do you know Ricardo? He doesn't do anything. He would never be the person to tell me that beforehand. He's not that type of guy. You always have to be watching behind your back. You always have to be looking around the corner when it comes to Ricardo Chambers. So it's nothing that I don't expect. I don't know why he would think I would have the distance of the 6. But what I can tell you is I've watched a lot of men's cricket at Warner Park, and I've seen very few actually clear the stadium and hit that ball into the road. I mean, that was special. And I mean, full credit has to go to Deandra Dottin. She really is the world boss, because what she does in women's cricket is quite unique to the rest of women's cricket, and I think she deserves that title.
Yeah, and Nikhil, whereas I think she struggled in one-day international cricket since her return to the West Indies setup, it hasn't quite been the same in the T20 format, has it? Because she's played some real impactful innings all the way back to the World Cup last year.
Yeah, you're spot on. To support your analysis, I mean, you look at 8 innings since she's come back into the team. Every single one of them has been double figures. She's got a 50 against India now, a 50 against Bangladesh, and then runs against teams like England and New Zealand. Look, she showed her value. I think with bat in hand, it's a no-brainer, but also 0 for 13 in 4 overs, 2 in the power play for 3 runs, and then 2 at the back end. I think Deandra Dottin at her best is probably the best all-round in the world. I know Nat Sivabrunt is probably up there as well. Sophie Eccleston we could call. But if I had to pick a team, I think I would want Deandra Dottin because of the X factor she brings. And look, the next step for her will be to find the right tempo and balance. I do think against a better bowling attack, maybe in different conditions, not as batter friendly, can she maybe come off the gas pedal a bit and be able to play that other innings, given her importance, given the rest of the batting lineup and how it's structured? We will see. But for the way it is structured right now, when Hayley Matthews is going and has gotten a start, for her to come in and bat like that, I think it takes immense pressure off of Hayley Matthews and allows her to occupy the crease a bit longer. And I think that's the ideal way for Joseph to take pressure off her in the power play and then Dottin in the middle to back in.
Yeah, by the way, what do you categorize Hayley Matthews as? Just because you said for your money, Deandra Dottin is probably the best all-rounder in the world. So I'm trying to understand the categorization for Hayley Matthews.
She was in a bracket by herself. So
that makes sense.
That was an obvious. Yeah, that was obvious.
Okay, that makes sense.
It was her and then the rest. Sorry, I should have clarified that. Thank you, Ricardo. You're always so sharp.
I just wanted to be clear, you know? I just wanted to be clear. I didn't want you to have to be looking over your back or anything like that.
Did you go to the makeup room today before you came onto the show, or you didn't do any makeup today? Yeah.
Nikhil,
I have files too, folks. I have files.
You're on fire, my friend. You're on fire. You know, when we had a chat with Karishma Ramarak only a few weeks ago, and I put the question to her about the West Indies women being a better T20 unit than they were a 50-over unit. And for the most part, I think she admitted that was the case. And I think we saw an example of that last night again. What do you think makes this team, as it is now, a better T20 unit?
Simply, I would say the importance of boundary striking. You look at the personnel in that top five. Obviously, Hayley Matthews is capable of doing both, but Kiana Joseph, Deandra Dottin, Shemaine Campbell to a certain extent, who I think is also better at straight rotation, but still prefers to be aggressive against the spin. I just think they're better suited batters to the T20 format. I actually like the 50-over format when it comes to Ramarak and it comes to Afi Petra because it gives them a chance to express themselves. They can be a bit more aggressive in the middle overs with their field setting. But I think it's going to have to be something that, because I look at that batting, Ricardo, and I know it's a work in progress and the likes of a Chanel Henry will come back in. But I think after that top four, I'm looking at Crafton, Gajnabi, Gisela James. It's Janelia Glasgow. It's four batters who are not averaging over 15 in T20I. So there still needs to be more emphasis on the depth. And I do think that comes from longer format cricket. I mean, you look at the best T20 players in women's cricket, most of them are excelling in both white ball formats. So it's all going to need to come together for the West Indies to truly be the best. But yeah, I do think they're certainly more suited to the shorter format.
Yeah, and speaking about everything coming together, Hayley Matthews in an interview was asked about areas to improve despite the first T20 win. And she spoke about bowling during that middle over period. You know, she felt as if the girls lapsed when it came to that. And I also felt the same way. Nikhil, your take on, you know, that area really needing to improve?
I think last night was the first time I really saw Afi Fletcher and Karishma Ramarat under some degree of pressure. I don't think either of them were at their best. In looking at the fields that they set, they were quite full with mid-on and mid-off up in the circle. It was very easy for Sultana to hit them down the ground and then sometimes missing their line badly down the leg side. What I will say, though, is credit to Bangladesh, because after the power play where they got off to a slower start, they started to actually come at the West Indies and put them on the back foot with their boundary scoring. And naturally, bowlers will tend to change their length and go away from that length that works well for them when batters are using their feet and creating opportunities. So I did think while they weren't at their best, we have to give the Bangladesh top four credit, who, again, similar to the ODIs, all chipped in small ways to support their captain. I thought their batting performance was quite impressive.
Yeah, definitely. So Hayley making that comment, and it's good to hear your view on that. Nikhil, another player that I don't want us to just run past because of the fact that Hayley stepped up and was brilliant, and Deandra Dottin, that would be Kiana Joseph. I feel like Kiana continues to show us consistency, and that is something that I feel has been a discussion for quite some time. lack of consistency, be it in the Windies men or the Windies women. And Kiana is a player that I feel has really been living up to her potential. It doesn't matter whichever game she plays in, you're going to get scores from Kiana Joseph, runs, that is.
Yeah, Murray, I think, again, anytime pressure's taken off of Hayley Matthews, I think it's a big win for West Indies cricket. And that's what Kiana Joseph is doing in the power play, where Hayley can just go out and run a ball. Kiana Joseph is attacking, and the West Indies are getting productive power play totals. My next step for Kiana Joseph, I've harped on it many times on the show, hitting the ball through the offside. Again, they forced her to do it, and you could see she was dismissed by it. But also, I think, after the power play, what are her other scoring options? Because once the field is spread and fielders now are on the leg side boundary and the boundaries dry up, how else is she going to be able to score to take pressure off herself? You look at all of her innings, it is successful power play batting, but after the power play, she's struggling to really kick on other than that one England game. So I think that's the next step for her, but the consistency and the attacking intent she's bringing to the West Indies team, it's a breath of fresh air, really, and I think we're seeing the results it's had on that entire batting lineup, the impact.
Yeah, and Nikhil, last week, after the ODI loss, I had suggested that maybe complacency had, influenced that result, or overconfidence, whatever term you would want to use, because I just felt that this West Indies team is far better than this Bangladesh team, and we're seeing that play itself out now. Do you expect a sweep in this series?
Lads, I still am not sold on the West Indian batting lineup. I think after the top four without Chanel Henry, it really is an experience. And I look at this Bangladesh team, and there are fighters in there. And the fact that they were able to get 144, I see enough in their bowling with the leg spin of Fahima and a few others, the left arm Seema. I think they can win a game in this series. And again, I just can't promise that the West Indies batting comes to the fore each and every game. Obviously, I would love a clean sweep. But St. Kitts is a funny venue, and I feel if you're chasing maybe a 140, 150 total with the win factor, depending on which surface you play on, there's always chances to score and score easily. So I wouldn't put it past Bangladesh to get at least one game.
Yeah, and history is replete, Nikhil, with players, both men and women in different sports, coming out of retirement. And in some instances, their second careers are even better than their first. You think of people like Carl Hooper and in the boxing game, George Foreman. But Dottin came out of retirement, and I was a little bit concerned about her appetite for the game. But what I'm seeing now suggests that we still have a lot to see from Deandra. She's 33 years old. A lot of the women in international cricket, don't flourish into their mid-30s, but I see no sign that Dottin will be in that group. She looks to have a lot of appetite for the game still.
When it comes to the skill set, Lance, and it comes to the ingredients, I mean, she mentioned her fastest 100 at Warner Park years ago. That was, 15 years ago? It's wild to think that, she's been around. No, it can't be 15 years. Sorry, that's way too long.
Just over 10.
But it's crazy. Over 10 years. It's crazy to think that, she's been around so long. I think
but she was playing 15 years ago. She was, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, fair.
She played the 2010 World Cup, didn't she?
Yeah. So the age 15 years, because I think 2010 is when she broke the record. So I have to back myself. But no, Lance, I think what she would have understood when she went out of the game and tried to focus on just the leagues is like naturally you always will face, you're not facing the quality opposition that you would in the international setup. And I find in the men's game, women's game, it's always harder for players who end their international careers to sustain that quality of performance. But I think it goes past just the leagues. She's understood that, if she wants to be the best in the world, it has to be earned in the international level in games like the World Cup and what we saw recently. So I'm looking at her, not only with bat in hand, but also in the field. I do see more of a leadership role from her now in this team. Now that the likes of a few of the older West Indian players are not there anymore, she now has become one of the main leaders in that West Indies team. And I'm seeing it when going up to bowlers, having discussions about plans, rallying on the girls and clapping and being quite loud in the field, which is something we didn't always see before. So I like the Deandra Dottin 2.0 she's come back in, and I hope now it can translate into her ODI game and her test game later this year, and she can have, you know, another 10 years in international cricket.
Interesting, because I was just going to ask you that question and for you to answer it in 10 seconds, but you've given us the answer as 10. And by the way, Nikhil, we're out of time, but before I let you go, just to help you out as well, she made her international debut in June 2008, so that's 17 years ago. Well, almost 17 years ago, a few months away from 17 years. So she has been around for a long time, and you want her to go for another 10. We all hope that she'll be able to go for another 10.
I was only 7 years old in 2008, but I know you were around 40, so you would definitely remember that.
43, actually, just about 20 years younger than Sir Lance. Take care. Let's go to a break. We'll be back with more on the SportsMax Zone.